Okay, so here is another drawing challenge, and I gave myself 10 hours to finish this particular portrait. Did I succeed? Find out on this video. So let's begin the journey for this particular drawing. Um, and the goal is to finish it within 10 hours, which is quite impossible, especially with colored pencils. But I'm not using a colored pencil here. I'm using pastel pencils, which is the quickest colored pencil or pencil medium that I can go to whenever I want to do something rushed. So typically this is rushed because yeah, I'm challenging myself to finish it within 10 hours. I hope I was able to do that, but as you can see here, I start by sketching the drawing. This is called this part right here is called the blocking in of shadows stage, wherein I'm concerned with the establishment of the shadows, and that's going to be very crucial for this drawing. And after you were able to establish the shadows, everything is going to be really easy and quick because you know where the shadows are, and later on you will see when we put the highlights, because you should start your portraits by building your shadows and your highlights, and then after that you can just play on with the color of the skin tone. And it doesn't matter actually if you get the exact color. What's important is you were able to build your shadows. So that is the part right here that you are seeing, and I am recording the time of the drawing process. So whenever I decide to sit and concentrate on the drawing, I put time so I will know if I will be able to finish it within 10 hours. So it is the coverage of the time is within at this stage is from 1 to 2 hours of this particular stage, where you can see here the putting of the highlights, which is one of the most crucial part of the drawing, because I'm using a toned paper. Actually, this paper that I'm using is what do you call this? A homemade DIY sanded paper. And if you've been following my what do you call this? My pastel drawing tutorials, I was able to make my own sanded paper by using this particular board right here. This is a matte board, and then I painted on top of the matte board a what do you call this? The Montmartre clear texture gesso. So I just used a roller, and then I rolled the gesso on top of the matte board and then let it dry for a couple of hours. And then right here I have a homemade sanded paper that I'm using here with my Stabilo pastel pencils and Gioconda pastel pencils, which is a little bit cheaper than the Stabilo. And unlike colored pencils, this medium, which is the pastel pencils, is really considerably quicker and faster to use when it comes to portraits, because they are very very easy to blend and very very easy to layer, especially with sanded paper. And what I'm doing here is a layering technique. So the green that you see right here on the skin tone, this is called the verdaggio technique, or what I call it, the green foundation technique. This is a green base that I typically use with pastel pencils to create a more like a flesh like human flesh. More it captures the green foundation captures more like human flesh. That's what it gives as an undertone. So because it dies down, or it lowers the saturation of the bright colors that I use. As you can see, I use oranges, I use pinks, but over the green foundation, the saturation becomes a little bit subdued because of the green foundation, which I like. I like because the skin tone becomes it looks more natural to do. So whenever I wanted something rushed or quicker portraits, but don't get me wrong, I don't want, even if this is a challenge, even if this is a full of pressure to finish within 10 hours, I don't want to sacrifice the quality, the realism of the portrait. I still want it to look as real as possible based on my reference photo. But even if this is it will be realistic, it will not be photorealistic, which means it's not going to look just like a photograph. You still have the sense of the artistry. That's what I like with the either colored pencils or other medium, especially with pastel pencils, because it will still look like an art. It will still look like a portrait. It's realistic, but it's not photorealistic, which means that you will still have the sense of the drawing. And what separates pastel pencils with colored pencils is that it is very flexible, very very flexible. That's why you were able to finish quicker and faster with the pastel pencils compared to colored pencils, which is typically very very slow process medium. But with pastels, you know why this is so flexible, this pastel pencils, because you can be able to layer even if the skin tone is already done. As you can see here, almost the skin tone is almost blended, but I can still be able to draw on top of the blended skin tone. Unlike with colored pencils, after burnishing, after blending, it's almost like impossible to add details and to add more subtle details unless you use other options like white pen or anything like that. But here you can just use the white or the flesh to add texture, to add details. You can even use dark on top of the blended surface to add skin textures or freckles. So you can just go back and forth with your darks and with your lights to be able to capture the realism of the portrait. And it's already been 8 to 9 hours, and I'm not yet done. I'm still starting with the hairs. And luckily, I don't have to use pastel pencils for the hair. I only use right here the soft pastels. This is the Toison Dior soft pastels, which is very, very nice mid-range soft pastels. As you can see, I was able to do the hair very, very quickly within this time, 8 to 9 hours. So I still only have more than an hour to finish the portrait for the challenge. And then I used, for the details of the hair, I used the white charcoal pencil of General's right here. So now at this stage, I'm almost through with the ninth hour, but I still have lots of things to be doing, like the clothes and the background. And the more stressful part right here is that I still needed to draw the details of the skin, like the freckles. So I draw the freckles and the skin, the moles of the skin on the last part of the drawing, because I can do that because this is pastel pencils. With colored pencils, that's not going to be possible. And yeah, I didn't succeed. That is the bad news. I exceeded the 10-hour challenge, and now I'm gonna adjust because I can't do anything about it. Now I still pretty much get a little bit quicker, and I want to adjust my 10-hour challenge to 11 hours. So I hope you can forgive me with that. I didn't succeed the 10-hour mark, but I'm pretty much confident that I can finish it in 11 hours, because for the background it's going to be really quick using the soft pastels, and the background is very, very light, so I can just use these soft pastels. As you can see here, as you observe right here, it's very quick to do so, and now I'm confident that I can finish it within 11 hours. So yeah, so forgive me for failing to finish it within 10 hours, but 11 hours, I know that it's also very, very quick. As you can see here, the background, this part of the background is a little bit more detailed, but it's done very quickly with soft pastels. So yeah, it's still pretty much successful because 11 hours for this very detailed, realistic drawing using pastel pencils.